is Colin Bowyer from Let's Make It Happen, and I am yet again in the official, well-known, dimly lit studio with Greg. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, Colin.
How are you?
Yeah. I'm all right, yeah. Here we are, again.
Third time.
Yeah. How did that happen?
No idea. There is, again, an element of backed by popular demand. We were at an event at the weekend, weren't we? Goodwood, full English. And I said to you, quite a few of the members said to me, when is the next podcast? And I thought to myself, when I see you, and I did see you that morning, I'm going to mention to you, if I had £1 this morning for everybody who said to me, when's the next podcast?
You'd have £3.
£4.50. I was adding it up now. The 50p, somebody got halfway through the conversation and went to the toilet.
Actually, I've changed my mind. Don't do another one.
No, I think they'd had too much coffee. Anyway, we are back again. We were pondering, as usual, over burger and chips, what we're going to talk about. Podcast number 2 was all about qualifying cars, which was all relevant and of interest to the members. So this time round, we thought, let's delve a bit deeper and chat respectively about our cars from a point of view, they're obviously qualifying cars or we wouldn't be in the club, and to have a chat about what the cars are, why we chose them, how we chose them, when we chose them, and see where we go from there.
It's a good idea. And I think we had planned to have other people getting involved in the podcast, hadn't we?
It will happen.
Illness and other bits and bobs have got in the way.
Yeah, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I don't know.
Yes, mainly sex.
Yeah, maybe that.
For you,
we'll cut that up. I wish. Yeah. Not the case, but sadly, this time of year,
there's a lot of it about, and I've fallen victim of it a little bit myself, so I do get it. But yes, I wasn't expecting my voice to be on episode 3.
Why not?
Just to put that out there. But
the point is,
in the end,
the idea is there will be others entering the dimly lit studio and joining the podcast theme for different topics and subjects of interest. Yeah. So there is more coming again because the feedback has been really good, and that's not because it's us. We know that. Although you're known to say things of interest and relevance. Anyway, respectively our cars, we were pondering it earlier on, weren't we? I have an AMG GT, and there's a story behind that. And I'm rubbish with numbers. I said, Greg, you've got 2 qualifying cars, which is actually 3. It's been a long day. So I don't know who wants to go.
I don't think people have seen some of my cars for such a long time because the Porsche gets used so much these days. But but let's start with your AMG GT, because I'm particularly interested in that car because it's on my want list.
Oh.
And I've nearly had one a few times. But I still plan to have one.
And I know we talked about it a while ago.
It's such a great looking car. It's quintessentially and sort of, I mean, it's a German car, but it's what I would call an old English sports car style. Long bonnet, short boot, front engine.
And that is relevant to one of my reasons for buying it. For many, many years, I've always been a lover of Jaguars, and gosh, it was my mid-30s. I put the overtime in, and I bought myself an XK8.
Okay, yeah,
and I loved it.
XK8.
Absolutely great car. A lot of my pals took the mickey out of me. Why did you buy an 911? A Jag. No, don't even go there. But I love that car. Had it for quite a few years, and then moved on to other things. But yeah, my story very quickly. I was in a position to buy a nice car, and I went through. A DB9 was an obvious choice for me, and then I was thinking about what I was going to do with the car, when I wanted to use it, where I wanted to go, and right or wrong, I thought reliability is something important. Not suggesting they're not too reliable, but anyway, I took a fancy to the Audi R8. I test drove quite a few, and it was my first experience of having an engine behind me and not in front, and it couldn't quite get my head around that. But it was top of the list.
So you drove one?
Drove a few, yes.
A few, right? Okay. Yeah,
I had a few test drives, but each one didn't quite tick all the boxes I wanted it to. But you've got to put the time in.
Is another epic car. for a sensible, relatively sensible price tag.
Yeah.
So I always cite an R8 as a really good, sensible choice for the first supercar.
Yeah. And because it was sensible, I thought, we'll take that off the list. I don't want anything sensible. No, you're absolutely right. But, and I'm sure with everybody's journey, certainly in modern times, the opportunity to do plenty of YouTube and the like research is there, and it's useful. And I just remember one or two things I picked up, that if the air conditioning packed up where the unit's placed in the engine bay, they'd best park or take the engine out. I might have got that completely wrong, but it's just one of those things that if it went wrong, it's a very expensive fix, and I'll make a note of that and so on. Anyway, to cut a long story short, every year with my pals, we head off somewhere for a long weekend in September. And this particular weekend, we were in...
I don't remember getting an invite.
Yeah, it's funny that, because I didn't send it.
I have checked my inbox, again. And
it's not there.
I don't think it is there. Anyway. But you said your pals.
I did qualify. They friends from Liverpool, no Scouse accent.
Real friends. Club. Real friends as opposed to...
a couple of them are tagged. They can't go too far. Anyway, this weekend, the tags were off. And off we went to Tenerife.
Including yours.
I'll put all that behind me now, but yes, I've got a special key. Get rid of it. And we went to Tenerife, and a hotel we stayed in, we hired a car. Anyway, there was an AMG GT in the car park, a white one. Wouldn't have a white one. Well, I've got a white one. And each day for that weekend, I walked past
Nothing wrong with white, by the way.
No, loving a white car.
I've had a white car. Yeah. And
What was it?
Oh, not a qualifying car. I'm talking back in the day.
What, Astra? Fiesta?
It was a Peugeot 309 GTI.
So anyway, about the way I would hold that against you. It's a good car. So I saw this car every day, and I had never thought of one of those moments, and decided I'm going to shift that to the top of the list by virtue of its, design, engine at the front, long bonnet, all the rest of it. So the bar was set, and doing a bit of research on Auto Trade and like, and one came up for the local Mercedes dealer, not a million miles away, and that was the car I went to see. The challenge was it was right in the thick of the beginnings of COVID. So when I rang them up, they said, yeah, come and look at the car, but you can't test drive it. COVID rules. Okay. So I put my deposit down. But
what, you couldn't drive it?
No.
And, put a deposit down and drive it?
That's correct. I could put a deposit down, which I did.
But you still couldn't drive it?
They wouldn't allow me to drive it because COVID rules were you couldn't sit in a confined space with another person. And he said, look, I can't let you go out in it on your own. And I said, is it a Scouse thing? And he said, probably. But anyway, you're not going to...
He probably recognised you from Crime Watch.
Probably. Well, of course, stop going there. But yes, no, he didn't. Anyway, so went to see the car. It was tucked in the dark corner of this garage. It was a main dealer. Anyway, started the engine, had a look around it. I thought, yeah, I'll buy that. So I bought it.
So having not driven that one or any other...
Actually, good point. Yeah, not
never having driven an AMG GT.
Correct. Don't judge me. Anyway, I took my chances, clearly.
Right, and when you finally did drive it...
Yeah. Bag of Spanish, hated. No, I didn't. It was lovely. It was everything I thought it was going to be.
Okay, interesting.
And more. So, yes.
So let's just rewind. What was the car immediately prior to the AMG GT? The XK, or was that a bit earlier?
No, I had a Panamera. I had an all-rounder. Porsche Panamera. So it ticked both boxes of a daily driver, and if you wanted to thrash it at the weekend, you could do it.
Okay, but quite a different car to the
very
AMG. So
yes, yeah, it was divide and conquer from a point of view of, well, that'll be something for the weekend, and I'll have a daily that ticked all these boxes. So yeah, the first time I drove it was when I drove out the showroom, very tentatively thinking, damn, this is a long bonnet, Anyway,
yes, it has got an unbelievably long bonnet, isn't it?
It is, and you sit in the car, and I like to have the seat set as low as possible to, get the most out of it. For the bonnet, you can see there's a good chunk more you can't see, as well. Anyway, so I bought the car, and I absolutely love it. It is a fantastic bit of kit. In fact, before Christmas, I was between daily drivers. I used it for a few weeks as my daily. It was fine. Obviously, always careful where you park it in Sainsbury's and the train station car park. But yeah, love it.
Visually, it's I think one of the reasons that has been a massive success car is it looks, to the untrained eye, almost exactly the same as the SLS, doesn't it? With the gull wing doors. So with the doors shut, you could be looking at an SLS, and I don't know how much they are, but they are hundreds of thousands, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's got all the kind of visual aesthetics of a 350,000 pound car, but at a much more realistic price. We're lucky enough to have a SLS in the club. It comes out from time to time, that is that it's obviously a throwback to the original SLS of what period is that? 60s
or later? Yeah, 60s. Yeah.
The gull wing.
Yeah, great car, beautiful car. I was actually at Brooklyn's Mercedes World a few weeks ago, and it's got a great bit of a museum in there with all different cars in. Worth a look.
They've got those original gull wings in there, haven't they?
Yes, yeah. So that's my story of that car, and I've had it. It's coming up to 4 years now, and it still puts a smile on my face when you're in it and go for a drive. Although driving it in December isn't ideal in the weather, but
it's probably 2-wheel drive, is it? Rear-wheel drive?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously,
you've probably got to be a little bit careful.
Without a doubt.
But I mean, it's a modern car. I mean, if you compare that to my first qualifying car, it was a 1985 Ferrari Mondial convertible.
Beautiful. You showed me a picture of it earlier on. Yeah, it's a beautiful looking car.
But no modern cons at all.
No.
So, you accidentally put your foot down on a cold day in that, and you'll be facing the wrong way.
Yes. And a bit embarrassed about it, no doubt. So, yeah, I mean, that's my story. We might come back to it in a moment or two. But, yeah, your go. Where do you want to start?
Well,
pick a number between 1 and 3.
So, Ferrari really has been my go-to brand. And I was thinking about this over the last few days when we were talking about what we were going to talk about. And I was trying to decide really where that passion for Ferrari came from.
Yeah, childhood maybe?
Well, I think there was a few ingredients, as is I'm sure the case for many of the listeners and their choice. Magnum PI has probably got a lot to answer for.
Yeah.
Miami Vice. Do you remember that?
Testarossa, the white one. Yeah.
And also, one of my pals from school, we'd go around his house of an evening or at a weekend, and his dad had a 308 GTS.
Very nice.
So the very much the Magnum model, not the later one, but the one that he drove in that.
And it was red.
And it was red. Yeah. So, of course, we used to take turns sitting in the driver's seat and making engine noises. I'm not gonna try and reproduce that
hit your throat
now. But and the smell of the car on the inside, the fact that it looked so different from anything else I'd ever seen.
It
was just exotic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And how old were you there? Then?
Well, we're talking late school days.
Yeah.
So, you're talking 14 to 16, I suppose.
In your teens.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, I think I wanted, but really probably in my head needed a Ferrari.
Yeah. But did you have
I had no idea whether or not that was ever going to happen or
No.
Or be possible, or
that's where these things become a reality. You start as a dream or a want, But did you not have the Lamborghini poster on your bedroom wall? Maybe not talk about what posters or pictures you did have on your bedroom wall in your teens.
No, I had, the picture, the ones that I can talk about are I had a beautiful side profile of a Testarossa. Actually it was a 512 TR, which if you know your Ferraris, it's the slightly later version. There was another one called a F512M, which was the final edition. But yes, the 512 TR was the sweet spot, and that was the one that was on my wall.
Okay. So the scene was set for the
Ferrari. Yes, I guess the scene was set. back in those days. But yeah, just thinking about just on the immediately lead up to buying the first Ferrari I was buying a TVR Griffith, 5-litre TVR Griffith, best sounding car ever made, possibly.
Yeah.
And
but you bought it?
No. That's the car in my head I was going to get. Okay. Right. Ferraris are for other people. You know, TVR's more in keeping with, you know, with me and my life and the budget, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So anyway, I found a really nice Griffith, test drove it, fell in love with it. I was going to buy it, drove home to sort the money out, phoned the dealer, and they said, "Oh, sorry, we sold it."
Cheeky monkeys.
And
wasn't meant to be.
Hurt. Yeah. That hurt a lot because I, as far as I was concerned, I was having the car. I thought I'd made that clear, and I was off to sort the finance. But maybe they're thinking this guy's a time waster or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the background, there was a chap at the end of my road that had a lovely red Ferrari Mondial convertible, and you know, every time I drove past his house, I'd slow down and look at it, and eventually I got chatting to the guy, and you know, it like you say, it was meant to be. He said, "Oh, that's funny. I'm thinking of selling it." So, you know, long story short, 2001, I think it was.
Right.
I bought it, and I was the owner of a genuine Ferrari V8.
Wow.
Car in
convertible as well.
Yeah, in Rosso Corsa, which is the classic racing colour of that car. And certainly then, it's not so much now, but back in those days, you had to have a red Ferrari. Anything other than a red Ferrari was a bit of a compromise, and the price of it would reflect that.
Really,
you know, you could save $5,000 or something by getting a black one. Or
do you know, I read somewhere once that anybody's first Ferrari's got to be a red one. After that, you can take your pick. Kind of then working the basis. If I ever saw somebody in a Ferrari that wasn't red, it wasn't their first car. Anyway, I don't even know where I read that. But
I think actually it's probably now more fashionable to not have red than it is to have red.
Good point. Yeah, I can see that.
But you know, anyway. I think you know, I'm on my second Ferrari now, and that's red. And if I bought another one, I do think it would probably be red. So I'm probably old school. You know, the upcoming you know, supercar owners, they want different colours, and that's cool too, isn't it?
So the first one you kept for a while?
So I had that for 10 years.
Wow. That is a long time.
It is a long time.
How many miles in 10 years?
Oh, that I couldn't tell you.
Well, I'm sorry.
But this is very much pre-club. So
of course,
getting the car out, I think we talked about in our previous podcast, is it consists of getting out of the garage, taking the roof down, which was a manual process, putting on the tonneau cover, which was a right pain, and then going out for a long drive on my own, coming back and parking up, so that it didn't do huge mileage.
Did you do any trips, Scotland, Europe, none of that? In 10 years? Wow.
10 years.
Incredible.
But I loved it.
Yeah.
And I remember getting it thinking, okay, it is a Ferrari, but, you know, it's an old 1980s Ferrari. It's not going to be fast. But I wasn't buying it for fast. No. I was buying it because I'd always wanted a Ferrari. But it was pretty fast, and it was noisy. You know, it was
ticking
80s.
Ticking the boxes,
sounding Ferrari V8.
I have to ask the question: reliable? Any issues?
So in 10 years, the only sort of serious thing I had to do besides maintenance was a new starter motor, and that I got reconditioned. I think it cost me £200 to have the thing reconditioned and refitted in 10 years.
And back then, insurance, would that have been a bit pricey, you remember? Just
I don't remember it being outrageous. I think I remember thinking, because there's not many of them are being crashed, and therefore they're not pricey to insure, because there's not many. You know, if you bought a mainstream BMW, there's probably hundreds of those being crashed, and therefore it was expensive. Whereas actually something that doesn't get crashed very often was much better on the insurance. So I think it was, £400 or something like that. I remember thinking, that seems totally reasonable. I remember spending more than 3 times that on my first car.
Yeah. So you kept that for 10 years. Did you go straight to the next Ferrari? Was there a bit of a gap then?
There was a month or 2 month gap or something like that. So not a lot. Yeah. Not a lot.
And your second Ferrari, just remind us what it is.
So the second Ferrari is a Rosso Corsa over crema leather, which is like the classic colour scheme. Ferrari 360 F1 Spider. F1 meaning it had the paddle shift gearbox. Spider meaning convertible. And there wasn't many on the market. So anyway, I did a national search for. It had to be, had to be a red one, had to be an F1. Yeah. And I really wanted it's probably getting quite geeky now. I wanted the Challenge rear grille.
Ah, okay.
Now, I don't know how much you know about Ferraris, but there was an option to have this black mesh grille on the back.
Right.
And to me, it made a big difference to the way the car looked.
As opposed to a painted.
It was just painted rear panel. Yeah. Okay. Which looks neater than the Challenge grille. Yeah. But the Challenge grille looked more unusual race car. You could see the engine through it. So it had to have that, as far as I'm concerned.
But could you not buy it with the panel and swap it?
You can, but who's going to sell you one?
Yeah, okay.
So they were extremely rare. There was thousands of painted panels where people would put the Challenge grille on, but no one, generally no one went the other way, put the painted panel. So anyway, I did a national search, and I think there was 3 or 4 cars nationally.
Wow.
One of which was in my village.
What are the chances of that?
And I very nearly bought it.
What? Yeah.
I didn't in the end. It was a beautiful car, and it was, super low mileage. I can't remember why I didn't buy it in the end. There was a reason. So anyway, I ended up buying one in Surrey, which I lived in Hampshire at the time. So Surrey was not very far.
Not a big trek.
The guy, wealthy guy, lived on a farm, had huge space, huge garage block. He said he loved getting it out, washing it, and then putting it away, and didn't really use it.
We're talking about his car.
Yeah. Sorry, that's another podcast. We'll do that.
Just checking.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So funny enough, I think my first Ferrari was in 2001, and then my second Ferrari was a 2001 Ferrari. So it's kind of quite poetic.
But in 2011, if you said you had the other one 10 years, I might get the maths wrong here. So when did you buy the second one? That was 2011. You said you had the first one for 10 years.
Yes, you're right.
We've had a pint each, haven't we? Pint and a half. Let's not do the numbers.
No, sorry. I think I was right. The car itself was a 2001.
Yeah.
But I didn't buy the car until circa 2011.
Yes, there you go.
So my first Ferrari I bought in 2001.
Yes.
My second Ferrari was a 2001 Ferrari.
Which you bought in 2011.
2011-ish, something like that.
That now makes sense.
Okay, I'm not going mad. I thought you'd got me then on dates, but actually it was okay.
Yeah, no, you were good.
So, sod you.
And a world...
They're trying to stitch me up.
Me, you outside now. So, no doubt, a bit of a world of a difference in the two cars.
So, massive upgrade.
Yeah.
So, wow. the 360 was Ferrari's first all-aluminium car that they made. So it
the chassis was good. Didn't bend and creak when you went round corners or over bumps and it was pretty solid.
Very good, and very light. Much lighter than my previous car, and much lighter than the outbound 355.
Yeah.
I mean, that's worth mentioning. At the time, the 355 Spider was the same price as a 360 Spider. So my budget meant that I could have picked a 355 or a 360.
Yeah.
So there was a decision-making process going on there because, I think most people consider the 355 as one of the most beautiful Ferraris they ever made. So there was a draw to having such a beautiful and legendary car as the 355. Yeah. But the 360 was such a leap in terms of technology.
Absolutely.
Much lighter. Yeah. The interior was way more modern. The way the car drove, the reliability and everything. In the end, and the other thing is, I was thinking, if I got the 355, it's likely to go up at a sharper value quicker than if I bought the 360.
Yeah.
But why was I buying it? Was I buying it because I wanted to make money out of it, or was I buying it because I wanted the driving experience? And in the end, I picked the 360. And whilst I think I would have made more money on the 355 now, looking back, I've had another 10 years with that car that I've absolutely loved.
Great.
And that was the car, really, that I had when I formed the club. So, you know, it's an important car for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And then, of course, your DB9. What's the story with that one?
So, the story behind that is I'd had a couple of brand new BMW 6 Series. I had the old shape, and then I had more recently the new shape.
Yeah.
And the reason I was attracted to those cars is long bonnet, short boot, kind of a sort of classic British sports car look.
Yeah, again.
Company cars. And, you know, they were funded through the business for tax reasons. And there was let's just say there was a loophole in the tax laws that meant that the benefit of having a brand new car through the business was disappearing. So I needed to buy a car.
Yeah.
Privately. And I spoke to my business partner, and you know, he was of the same mind that the reason I had a BMW 6 Series is I really wanted an Aston Martin. But, you know, this was a daily car.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense, doesn't it, to have a BMW? So that's why that happened.
Yeah.
But I now need to buy a car, and I'm used to having that sort of traditional English sports car style car.
Yeah.
So I thought, I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch that itch for 6 months. I'm going to buy a DB9, because to me that was the shape that really captured me into the brand. And you know, it reminded me of, you know, the James Bond-esque sort of personality of that car. You know, subtle, classy, you know, very different from the Ferrari, which was bright red and noisy, and, you know, very different. So
just thinking back to the Christmas charity ball, there was a Bond theme there, and just looking at it now, I can see the Bond from the neck up in you.
I'm just being you need now. Stronger glasses.
Yeah,
Colin,
these ones. I know.
To be honest with you,
I'll get an appointment.
I mean, thank you for lying, but I mean, you know, it's not very convincing.
I'm trying to put.
If you're going to lie, at least make it convincing.
I take it back. You've definitely got the radio face. Let's crack on. Anyway, so DB9.
So crazy idea. Okay, 6-litre V12. I'm going to have one of those for my daily for 6 months, and then get something more sensible.
Yeah.
What could go wrong with that idea?
Sounds like a plan.
It sounds like, you know, 6-litre V12, that's going to be like £1 trillion a month on fuel. Yeah. But actually, the difference between a diesel BMW and a V12 Aston Martin, the actual difference between the two amounts of fuel for someone that is passionate about cars is not a lot.
Yeah.
I think the perception is that it would be way worse than it is in reality. Yeah. So anyway, I ran it for 6 months, and another 6 months, and another 6 months, and I ended up having my daily drive was my DB9 V12 Volante for just over 2 years, I think, maybe 2.5 years.
Wow.
And I did 23,000 miles in that Aston. And I thought, you know, I've put an unbelievable amount of mileage on that. Yeah. You know, I'm going to take a hit there.
Yeah.
I sold that car after all that time for £2,500 less than I paid for it.
Goodness me.
The BMW was costing me that.
Oh, that, yeah.
Every 2 months it was costing me that.
Yeah.
I think I worked out.
Yeah.
And there was this joke, and it, you know, to the wrong person listening, they're going to probably think that I'm a bit of a a-hole, but I used to joke with people and say, I can't afford a BMW.
Yeah.
So I've had to have an Aston because I can't afford to run a BMW. It's too expensive on depreciation. Yeah. People look at me going, what are you talking about? And then I'd explain that after all that time, it only cost me £2,500.
It's incredible. Right or wrong, it adds up.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, one of the cheapest dailies from a depreciation point of view I've ever had.
Yeah.
So I got another one.
So the one you've got now, sorry.
It's the second one.
Second one.
But, most people can't tell the difference. It's exactly the same car, basically. Same.
And reliable? How did you...
How reliable is...
daily,
no, it was. It was extremely reliable.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think. I think my second one has been slightly less reliable. Like the shock absorber snapped. No, it didn't. No. The spring did. The spring snapped recently, actually, within the last year. Took it in for an MOT.
Yeah.
He said, the car is almost perfect, but I can't pass it because of this, and pointed to the road spring that my wife had driven my daughter in the day before.
Wow.
And now I'm realising it's got a broken car.
Was this when you had 2 or 3 cars needing MOTs at the same time or something?
Yes. You're right. You've got a good memory there.
Yeah.
I think her car was also off the road being MOT'd or having some work done for the MOT. So she used my Aston.
And then that failed the MOT.
And then it failed the MOT. And it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So yes, I think I have had a couple of problems. Oh, and the spring only came with the shock absorber. So, it was a fairly painful repair because when I got the car back, I'd spent all this money and it was exactly the same as when I left it.
Interestingly, reminded me when I bought my AMG GT, one of the shock absorbers was leaking. The car had only done 22,000 miles.
Okay. And was it with it still in warranty or?
Yeah, they'd replaced it without a sniff of an issue.
Okay.
And that was really fine. But again, one of those a bit weird. It was
you wouldn't
near
expect
side rear.
That would you?
No,
especially not for a
all.
German car. You have this perception, don't you, that German cars, are exceptionally high quality.
I mean, I have no idea. Again, it's way above my my knowledge and wisdom of these things. Whether the previous owner had gone over a pothole or something, I don't know.
I've seen that being absolutely ragged around the track on YouTube. That car.
Really?
I think they polished it up and sold it to you, but I think its history is...
That's that other chap who joined the club recently in his blue one with the massive spoiler. Graham.
Yeah.
No, not him. It was.
Don't listen, Graham.
I stole it one night. He never knew, and I had great fun with it. No, not at all. Anyway.
Let's talk about that just quickly. So Graham's is a GTR. So yours is an AMG GT.
Standard GT. Well, it's got
and his is an AMG R Pro. Same colour or very similar colour. Is it same colour? Oh, same colour.
It is actually the same colour.
Huge rear spoiler.
Massive.
That is a rare car, isn't it? That's basically a race car, isn't it?
Spoiler's good for picnics. You put your drinks.
Yes.
He doesn't like it, but I do it anyway.
Yeah.
It's an incredible car. I've not.
Should we get a photo of us putting our drinks on his spoiler? Take a photo and then take them off, and then send it to him.
Should we do it now? Let's jump.
Well, his car's not here.
I know where he lives.
Should we do that?
He's not far. We could try. See what he says.
He's a lovely guy, Graham. So I think he'll see the funny side, won't he?
You say that, there's a dark side to all of us. But it's worth a try. Amazing car. The big difference between the two, and Graham, if you're listening, I'm not going to apologise. His is a couple of years younger than mine.
He is a nicer owner of his.
There is that.
The owner
that wasn't
nicer.
where I was going with that.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll cut
more
it
attractive,
shall we? Look, honestly, mate, you can take the boy out of Liverpool, but I will hit you with a guitar. His car is a bit quieter than mine.
Is it?
It's not even a vicious rumour, it's a reality. Because of
yours is a 6.3 litre V8, I think. Is that right?
I wish. No, it's a 4 litre.
4 litre, okay. I thought it says 6.3 on it.
No, that was a marker pen.
You just drew that on?
Yeah, couldn't help myself.
Okay. Right, so it's a 4 litre V8.
Same engine.
Turbo or?
Yeah, twin turbo.
Twin turbo.
A Hot V, as it's affectionately called.
Okay, and the GTR Pro is the same engine.
Same engine.
More horsepower?
Yes, probably a fair bit in the grand scheme of things.
So really more of a man's car.
You could put it that way. Honestly, don't start me off.
The man's version kind of thing. Sorry, that's very sexist, isn't it? Actually, thinking about it.
It is something. I'm feeling offended. From the waist down, neck up, I don't know.
Sorry, ladies, because we have a lot of lady club members. So to say it's the man's version, it's the more serious car
You're trying to dig your way out of it.
No, I'm trying to dig you into a hole. But anyway,
good luck with
right, go on. So talk to me about the difference then. What else? But it's quieter, you're saying?
Yes. Between the age of the two cars, there were some changes to emission laws. And as you know, mine pops and bangs and crackles like a good, his quiet as a church mouse.
Honestly. Is it really?
I actually thought it was an electric car when I first saw him.
Oh, Paul Graham, you're really sort of digging in, aren't you?
It's not Graham's.
He talks really nicely about you.
That's not what I heard. I'm just trying to get my own back on air, you know. Anyway, it's an incredible car. It's wonderfully quiet. Wonderfully quiet. And great for picnics. You know, it comes with a built-in table.
Yes. Yeah, that is a really useful feature, isn't it?
Yes, it has. And it doesn't do anything. It's a fixed spoiler on the back as opposed to one that comes up and you go over a certain speed. Anyway, we were going to try and not talk about other members, but I know you won't mind. It's too late now.
I love that car.
It's incredible. I mean, I
love both of your cars actually. For different, considering the basic car is the same.
Absolutely.
They are very different, aren't they? The GT and the GTR or the GTR Pro.
Yeah.
And I love them both, but it would be difficult to know which one I would prefer.
I suppose there's an element of it depends what you're going to
use it
do
for.
With the car.
The Pro looks very sexy as a weekend car, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's built for the track, you know. Yeah. You look at all the bolt-on extra bits of bodywork, they all serve a purpose.
And yes.
It looks pretty amazing.
Yeah. And it's the same with some other sort of high-profile, sort of thinly disguised track cars. Like, for example, we had Venet's GT3 RS, the new 992.
That was...
And there's incredible. A lot of similarities. Really, really big rear spoiler.
Yeah.
And like front wing vents are becoming more popular now.
Yeah.
And, it's more function over form, isn't it? Where, like you say, any sort of little bit of aero there is not there to look good. It's there as a functioning bit of aerodynamics.
Yeah.
And I think that's becoming quite popular, isn't it, for cars?
It is. Lots of different cars. Anyway, we went off on a slight tangent, but that's okay. So DB9, do you think we've done that with yours?
So I had car. One, I think I got my first one in 2015, and I've got a feeling I had that for... I think we said, didn't we? It's about 2.5 years, something like that. And then I got the Gen 2. So it had a very heavily revised interior, but exterior was, pretty much the same as my old one.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's the classic Aston Martin sort of silver grey.
Yeah.
Super subtle and. But it serves a different purpose to the Ferrari.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, out of both cars, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Which one is more likely to be let out at junctions by other road users? The DB9 or the Ferrari?
Yes. Okay, so very, very distinct differences there from other people's perception.
Yeah.
With the Ferrari, I'd say approximately 50% of people will nudge up to the car in front, so there's absolutely no chance that you're going to get out.
Yeah.
I'm not letting him out. There's no way, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the other 50% of people will, and I'm not joking here, because coming up to over 2 decades now of Ferrari ownership, I've had so many experiences of it that this is real, okay?
Yeah.
The other 50% of people will drive up curbs in order to let you out.
Whoa. That's amazing.
So 2 distinctly different receptions that you get.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for people to shout at you, making up for other things, the usual stuff. And then you'll get a little old lady saying, "Oh, that's stunning." And you think, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas the Aston, I'd say 100% of people will let you out.
Yes, that was my thinking, or my
less than 1% of people have got some kind of beef with you. I mean, I'm just, pretty much zero. It's funny how Aston have got a brand that is so well loved. I mean, I don't know if you went to France or Italy,
good point,
whether or not there would be a different attitude, but
possibly in Italy, but for understandable reasons, not for ours.
I haven't done that, so I can't talk from experience. I've not.
I mean, certainly for me, with mine, it's quite a rare car. You don't see them. So I think initially it's more of a what? Oh yes, I've seen one of those. Or whatever. But I don't really have a view on that.
What you haven't? You can't really recall noticing a trend.
Right. It's another car on the road as opposed to it's a DB9.
So if it was bright yellow, or I know we've got David's bright green one, haven't we? Which is much more visual. I wonder whether if it was a brighter colour, whether or not there would be a bit more notice, because yours is a subtle dark blue. You slip under the radar a little bit, maybe.
Absolutely agree. Anyway, but certainly with the DB9, that was what I was expecting you to say. Is you after you say, sort of thing.
Very much, and there's no you've got that Aston Martin to make up for other things. That never comes up ever. I can't even think once.
When I first met you, I did
wonder,
think that, and the rumour mill. Gosh, no,
I don't need. I don't need the Aston.
Keep it above the waist
for that.
Yeah.
So what a glorious car the DB9 is. I mean, to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people would see that as a sort of a large GT car rather than a sports car. Let's favour the Vantage for obvious reasons. But I had the Ferrari, so I didn't need a sports car per se. I was looking for a GT car, so that ticked another box, if you know what I mean.
And kind of finally to complete the trio, and indeed the car we probably see you in the most. In the grand scheme of things and events and the like, is your green monster. I'm calling that Porsche.
So yes, the Porsche Taycan Turbo, fully electric, and it is dailied. That is my daily drive, but it also ends up being my weekend drive as well, because
it's ticking a whole load of boxes.
Well,
isn't it?
it in some ways it's too good.
Yeah.
Really, it suits someone that needs one car. They want a lovely daily car, but also a weekend car. Really, you only need that. You don't need any more. So yes, the Ferrari and the Aston don't come out anywhere near as much these days. That is partly because I'm carting around.
Yeah, of course, the kits,
signs,
and banners,
and marquees, and stuff like that. Which, from the outside, you can't tell that it's got 25 banners in it and a 10 metre by 10 metre marquee in it. You just wouldn't know. It's a massively versatile car. But it's not as pretty as everyone else's car. I am mindful that
again,
it's I do look at people turning up in their Ferraris and think, or Lamborghinis or McLarens or whatever, and think, my car is fast and it's a Porsche, but it's not one of those.
Yeah. Again, for you, it's. Do I call it work? I don't know. Obviously, you're part of the event for all the right reasons, but you've got things you need to be doing, and obviously the car ticks a lot more practical boxes.
Well, it is practical, but I mean, even with the practicality aside, and I don't have anything in the boot whatsoever, and it's just me in the car. It's a phenomenal driver's car.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't expecting. I know we have covered some of this in a previous podcast.
Yes.
The reason for me, or my expectations when I was buying that car was, it's an electric car. It's going to be really, really fast in a straight line. There won't be much on the road, to be honest, that will touch it. And that's quite cool, isn't it, to have that as a daily? But, it's never going to be a sports car because it's heavy. But in the end, it handles...
Yeah.
I mean, bearing in mind, I've got a couple of relatively older sports cars in the Ferrari and the Aston, and this is brand new. So, it was tight. The chassis is superb. It didn't have to work that hard to be better than my, my aging cars, which I love. But Yeah, really, it's kind of a car that you'd otherwise would be out of my budget.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, interestingly on that, and we're nearly at a close. We've covered everything we want to, but in more recent weeks or last couple of months, I've read some interesting opinions and views on the market for that kind of Porsche. The prices are going down.
Still,
what's your view on that quickly?
The electric car market is, you know, in the scheme of things, you know, the combustion engine has been around for over 100 years.
Yeah.
Really, electric cars have really only just started coming in properly within the last decade, and you know, there is a lot of concern and anticipated concern about, you know, how long the battery's going to last and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's some scary figures that, you know, there's a battery pack, it's, you know, 30 grand or whatever.
It writes the car off. Is that? Yeah.
For the right car, it probably could write the car off. But, you know, just thinking right now, how many people do you know with an electric car have had to replace the battery pack?
Yeah.
Any?
None. Absolutely
not a single one.
No.
And there are thousands of electric cars out there now.
Yeah.
So I think we are, as humans, we are typically reticent, aren't we, about a new technology?
Yeah.
And we do assume the worst a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people are better at that than others, aren't they?
Absolutely. And then blow it out of proportion, probably.
Yes. You know, it's all doom and gloom. You know, oh my goodness, you know, electric car market is dead and things. Yeah.
Anyway.
It will be interesting to see how the market deals with it, because what the manufacturers can't have is cars depreciating to the point where
puts people off
buying them off in the first place.
Yeah,
absolutely. Don't we?
Anyway, we've covered what we wanted to chat about. Obviously, the last podcast, looking at qualifying cars, it kind of made sense to go into a few examples of what we've chosen, why we've chosen them, and so on. We've covered that, and I think when we talked about this earlier on, is every owner and their car have their own story.
Yes.
Even if members have the same car or similar cars, some are noisy, some are not as noisy, but they're still blue, whatever. We've done that. So we were thinking, depending on how things go, is inviting another member or two to have the same chats about their
McLaren
car.
And Lamborghini and Maserati. I mean, there's a huge, you know, people, for whatever reason, you know, whether they're exposed to that brand as a youngster or that, you know, there's something visual about a different brand that appeals to them. You know, personally, I would love to hear the background around
everybody's story.
Someone buying a McLaren or whatever.
Yeah, any member.
It doesn't matter what it is. So if anyone does,
fancy having a chat.
Give Colin a shout.
Give you a shout. Give anybody a shout, and we'll take it from there. Look, Greg, time has gone on.
Can I just ask one more question?
You can.
Life beyond the AMG GT.
Yes.
When? What? Why?
Whew. I've been asked that question before, and the quick answer is, I haven't done everything I want to do with the AMG GT.
Okay, yet. So it's not immediately on your radar.
No, not at all. And I love the journey of thinking, right, I'm going to change my car. And, you know, part of the enjoyment for me before I've even bought one I've chosen is taking that journey and doing the research and kicking a few tyres and wherever it might be. And I've reflected on that thinking, I took the journey to choose this car. I'm at that point where I think, I don't know what I'd want. You know, and you're coming at it from silly angles. You think, well, I think I've still got a Ferrari in me before retirement, sort of thing. So that's a possible.
A Ferrari, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What is it like? It would be nice to tick off having a Ferrari at some point.
Yeah. You put it.
Yeah.
And for some time, I've felt, and I affectionately call it my retirement car, is a Bentley GT. Maybe.
Okay, yeah, I'd love Bentleys.
Beautiful car, a quieter version of mine, you know, and doing very similar things. So yeah, I've still got things I want to do in the car.
There's things you want to do in a car, but where does the AMG GT fit in that? Do you mean you've got plenty of enjoyment of the current car, or there's other things you want to do beyond the AMG?
Yeah, I by using a car, right or wrong, in the years I've had it, the furthest I've been is a 700-mile round trip weekend in North Wales, which I went to a couple of years ago. I enjoyed that. Many years ago, I did an incredible trip to Monaco and back in a very scenic route on a motorbike. It was absolutely fantastic. I'd love to do that in the AMG GT.
Okay, well, I think we are planning on going back to Monaco next year.
Oh,
but this year we're going to Saint-Tropez,
and I'm liking the list. I went there as well on my motorbike. That's a nice part of the world.
But I think you're very seriously thinking about bringing the AMG GT down to Saint-Tropez, I think.
Oh, yes, 100%. For the time I've been in the club, I've not done a European trip yet, so I'm overdue. My third year.
Yeah, I mean, that car is really, compared to a lot of cars, that is absolutely perfect for that.
Yeah, there you go. So that's something I need to do before I even think about changing it.
So, in summary, then you're thinking when the GT goes, you think then it will be either maybe a Ferrari to tick that off, or a Bentley. Is that what you're thinking?
Possibly. Yeah. Yes. And I've not written off a DB9.
What Ferrari would it be?
Oh my gosh.
Are you on the spot now? Have you got a model in mind?
458, 488, something in the middle there,
Yeah.
But equally, which one is it? And I should know because I like it. It was one at the weekend, the grey one, beautiful, big.
F12?
Yes.
F12.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. To be honest, if things were, a bit better than they might be at the minute. I mean, I don't know who's listening, but I'm sure everyone is feeling the pain of the economy at the moment. F12 I would love to tick that off.
Yeah.
My old pal said, you haven't really arrived at manhood unless you've had a Ferrari V12.
There you go.
So
I rest my case.
So that does need ticking, doesn't it?
Yeah. Look, we've done better than we thought we were talking on this particular subject. It's just interesting, isn't it, to hear our respective stories about our cars.
There must be always a story, mustn't there?
I think there is, and no two are the same, but with similarities.
Yeah.
But,
and I think everyone would be really keen to hear people's stories. And the beauty of our club, without sort of harping on about it, is the variety of cars
and people.
Yeah.
Variety is key.
Yeah, I love that. And I love hearing, whilst I love Ferrari, I love to see and understand about all of the brands.
Yeah.
But funny enough, I know we're kind of like tying up, but you couldn't really draw the desire to get your AMG GT from your childhood. Well, had you been a Mercedes fan?
No, in fact.
So it was not impulse purchase, but it was a relatively last minute decision.
If I was honest, given a choice of a daily driver, Mercedes would be way down the list of choice.
Okay.
And again, it's happened a few times in my car buying lifetime. Is I never thought of one of those.
Yes.
And then I looked again, and weirdly, was on holiday with my buddies. This kind of car park, and I saw it every day for 4 days. And each time I took a scenic route to our car and walked around this thing thinking, do you know what? I'm liking this more each day.
Yes.
And it was the morning. I was sober, I didn't drool all over it or drunk or whatever. And it went on from there.
So it was very much an inspirational moment. Yeah. And had the car not been in that car park, I wonder whether you would have ended up with one?
Probably not. But again, I got to this point when I've gone back over it where the R8 was top of the list, but it didn't. There was something
missing for you personally.
Yeah, I couldn't answer the question, but it didn't. I test drove 4, and of the 4, 3 of them were perfect. Were ticking the boxes. One wasn't right for me. Another story. But I didn't commit. So and I couldn't.
So there was something missing, because otherwise you probably would have committed, wouldn't you?
And I think with the R8, I probably needed to drive it more than a bit of a test drive round the block and up the motorway, one junction. If I had the car for half a day, I would probably have bought one just to get familiar with it, more comfortable with it. And I tried actually as well. Come back over it. I had a 911 GT2, which was perfectly lovely.
So you had a 911 GT2?
A test drive. I didn't own it.
Okay.
I test drove one.
Right.
A brand new one. Is when I had. If I tell you what it was, I had a Panamera. It was going in for some work, and I thought, I'll just try one of those. Yeah, take it for the day.
All right. And, GT2.
Yeah, it was incredible. And back then as now, having a family, it needed to have some practical elements to it as a daily driver.
Right.
Obviously, that was a consideration.
Did it have rear seats or not?
It did.
GT2? Oh, it did.
But it did need to fit a small child in, and the best place that my son fitted at the time was in the front, at the boot. I put him in there.
Well, in the front boot.
I kept the lid open, but I said, "So
whilst driving along?"
No. I mean, used to work in health and safety. I don't now, but
Right. So to avoid the safety issue, you closed the bonnet.
No, I didn't close it
whilst driving along.
The car was on the drive. I said, "Come on, son, get in there. Let me take your photo and stick your hand up." He fitted in quite nearly, but it was a bit of a squeeze in the back of the car. Anyway, right or wrong. In fact, then, sorry, it was a consideration, but I was enjoying my Panamera, so it wasn't. But cut long story short, I'd had a Porsche. I thought, I want something different, so that I kept that off the list.
Yeah.
Hence going down the road of DB9 R8, and then ultimately AMG GT. Anyway, and we are where we are. Let's see what the future brings.
Holds.
Greg's been. It's fascinating, isn't it? Talking about our little stories about our cars and the history, and it brings back memories.
It does.
Things
it does.
I don't remember. Things spring back into your mind, and as you say, it'd be great to get other members in to have a chat. What's your story? A little bit of history and your car journey, and what brought you to the car ultimately they've got right now, or the cars they've got now. So shall we call it a day?
Yeah, I've got a home to go to. What does the time say?
It is 22:36.
Okay, all right. So that's not too bad. That's later than last time, but I don't think it's as late as the first time.
And hopefully the road's not blocked by a burning car.
Right, yeah.
Sounds like it's awful, isn't it?
It's like mini Liverpool here, isn't it?
Oh, there it is again. No. That's another story. But yes, we live in a very quiet part of Hampshire. But last time you were here, somebody dumped a blooming.
I had to back all the way.
Roads,
all the way up to your driveway, and it took me something like 17 minutes to get from your front door to the end of your driveway. That's that's
a long drive. Yeah,
how sprawling this.
Leave it at that.
This mansion is.
Not true. You're right. Anyway, it's bedtime. It's call it a day. Greg, it's been great fun again. Let's see what happens. We'll take it from there.
I would love to say that it's been a pleasure.
I know, and I likewise.
But listen, I don't like to lie. So it's been okay chatting to you, Colin.
You see, there's a door, mate. If you go, turn the lights on your way out. Will you? Anyway, let's call it a day. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Thanks for giving up your evening again.
No, it's been good fun.